What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Finally, another Hunter Talks is back, and we've kind of taken a break from them because there's nothing to really talk about. But finally, the NHL has blessed us with the playoffs. Joining me again is my good friend Alex. What's going on, sir?
Oh, what's going on, Vince?
Let's get right into it. What do you think about the NHL playoffs? The season is done. Now we're looking at the playoffs. What do you think of the way they're handling it?
Well, first off, I'm excited that hockey's coming back. Never mind how the format looks. I'm just happy that hockey's coming back. So I'm excited to, and it'll be good too because now teams will kind of be able to prepare. They know who they're playing. They can kind of study those teams a little bit more. Do I like the format? Part of me says yes. Part of me says no. I might, have a different answer if depending on the team that you cheer for, then it's hard to say. I understand why some fans might not like this format, and I understand why fans do like the format. I think about a team like Montreal, who before this started, they had a 1% chance at making the playoffs, and now all of a sudden they're in the playoffs. So is that,
And teams
that
like the
fair?
Rangers, well, they made it a two actually, but the teams in the outside that were doing so well, their season just gone, right?
And especially for a team like Buffalo, this has to
Oh,
stay
man.
knowing that they were the last team. Like they're the first team outside the bubble. So
And
for them
how
to
do you
see,
feel about those Jack Eichel comments?
I personally think that if they don't have a good season this upcoming year, I feel he's going to ask for a trade eventually. I just think like that team's losing every year now, and I don't like Buffalo. They're a rival of Toronto, but they do have a nice team. But for whatever reason, they can't figure it out. Like Jack Eichel's a player. That guy
He's
can
pretty
play,
good.
and
He's, yep.
like he knows how to like he's got the Leafs number every time Buffalo plays Toronto. He's just a ridiculous player, and I love the fact that there's the Buffalo Toronto rivalry. Even though Buffalo's not a playoff team, that battle between Matthews and Eichel, two American studs, like it's a good matchup.
It's a fun one to watch
So
every time too. It's good because you'll get Buffalo beating us, and it's like this shouldn't be happening. But then 3 days later, they play again, and the Leafs blow them out. So it's a very
well,
good
that's
series. I always enjoy it when it's in town. Let's go right to it. This is the breakdown of the qualifying round. You're gonna see the top four teams: Boston, Boston again. Tampa, Washington, and Philly bypassed the qualifying round, and we're going to see some pretty good matchups, if you ask me, in a best-of-5 series with Pittsburgh taking on Montreal. You got Carolina taking on the Rangers. That's a fun one. The Islanders versus Florida is kind of like the snoozer of them all. But
yeah.
you get the Leafs against Columbus. And the last time I had you here, we had high praises for Johnny Torts. So this is going to be a fun series. It's a shame it can't go the full 7. I get it time-wise and everything, but it's going to be a fun series. But the thing that's really going to kick us in the butt is the winner of that faces the Boston Bruins. It's like a Leafs nightmare. As a greatest Leaf fan that I know, what's your take on this series?
Well, look, like we talked about last time, I thought Columbus had a good year. They played well, they work hard, and they're one of those teams where if you catch them off guard, or if they catch you off guard, they're gonna hammer you. And I said it last time. These guys, they just work hard. They don't really have many flashy guys. They have obviously Seth Jones, who's a nice player. They have Pierre-Luc Dubois, the center, who I really really like. He's a third overall draft pick. That guy. So they got some nice players, but on paper, the matchup it should be no question Leafs.
Yep.
But if you look last season and Columbus played Tampa first round of the playoffs, and same thing on paper, it was Tampa all day. Nobody picked Columbus in that series
Yep.
to win. And what did Columbus do? They swept Tampa, and I think that was Tampa. Going into the first round, they had a great year. They're feeling good, and they're thinking, "Oh, we got Columbus. Like we got these guys," and they didn't take them seriously. So my concern is because the Leafs They have all the skill in the world, but do they have the work ethic? That's the question. And are they going to be able to, be prepared? And are they going to be, are they going to get their heads in order and realize, like, this isn't a team you got to take lightly. Like, they got to play.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing that you say that, and I swear, I just had a flashback of the 2002-2003 playoffs, where I think Ottawa was the first seed and the Leafs played them in the eighth. I could be wrong about this. Anyways, it was an Ottawa-Toronto series where Ottawa finished ahead of the Leafs. The Leafs beat them. It was beautiful. I remember that game. I think it was Gary Roberts went 5-hole. Like, it was beautiful. Anyways, I remember at the end of that, God rest his soul, Pat Quinn said, all the points that you make during the season get flushed in the toilet when the playoffs hit. And I think that's the best thing to look at it. Yeah, you got those top 4 teams looking at it. Yeah, they're tough, but the playoffs are the playoffs for everybody. So
look at a couple years when LA won their first cup. I think it was in 2011. I think it was. They were an 8th place team. They just squeaked into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And
well, St. Louis last year, were they not like low numbered too?
Well, St. Louis last year when they won in January, they were the dead last team in the league. So when you think about how much they had to win just to even get into the playoffs, It's insane. So you're right. Anything can happen.
Exactly. That's what I love about the playoffs. You grow a nice beard and you watch some good hockey, and that's it. It's kind of suck that we can't go to a bar and watch the Buds take on Columbus, but what can you do? And over out on the other side, you got St. Louis, the top seed team now, the Colorado, Vegas, Dallas, and the teams, and these are some pretty good matchups. I gotta admit, I'm loving these a little bit more than ours. We got Edmonton taking on Chicago. That's just like studs versus studs. You got Nashville against Arizona. What's up?
No, keep going, and I'm going to give you some.
We got Vancouver versus Minnesota, and then we got Calgary versus Winnipeg in the first all-Canadian matchup. My question to you is this. Obviously, I know you're a Nashville guy. Besides the Leafs, you like Nashville. I know you've gone to see them a couple of times in their home state, so I got to ask you this. We also have one of our favorite players on Arizona in Fat Phil Kessel. What do you think of that series? Let me get your touch on that.
Well, I think Nashville is a team where, we said this last time. They had a really, really nice offseason. They added some good players. They have a nice defenseman. Like Roman Josi, their captain, he couldn't win the Norris this year. I always say, if
good numbers this year too, gritty.
Yeah, he's amazing. And if he played in Toronto, New York, or Montreal, that guy'd be winning every year. It's just because of where he plays, he doesn't get the attention.
Yeah.
But he's a stud. And so that's a series where, similar to Toronto, I think Nashville has an opportunity here where they can kind of look in the mirror and say, okay, look, we didn't have a good season, but we're in, and anything can happen. So if we come and we work hard and we play the way that they can play, I think that's going to be a good matchup. But that's another thing too. Don't take Arizona lightly. Like Arizona had a good team.
They did a lot of good trades too, if you ask me. They went out and took out of Jersey there. What's his name again? His mind always slips. Tyler Hall. So it's like they put a good core together. So obviously they're not going to stick around because let's face it, the Arizona market is not the best. But it's like the Florida, I would say. But you know what? It's going to be a fun playoff series as well. Even Edmonton and Chicago is going to be good. I finally get to see McDavid in a playoff game, so this is going to be fun.
I think with that series there, with the series that Oilers in Chicago, I think Connor McDavid has to be in the playoffs every year. Like he needs to play in playoff hockey. It's good for the game. He needs to be there. He's just that good. Even Draisaitl, he's another one. He's ridiculous. But I think if I was an Edmonton fan, I would hate this playoff format. I would absolutely hate it, and I'll tell you why. Chicago, same thing, similar to Montreal. They didn't have a very good season, but they made it. And if I'm Edmonton, I'm thinking, holy crap, even though Chicago didn't have a good year, they still have guys like Kane, Taves, Keith, Seabrook, guys who have won cups. and these guys know when to turn it on at the right time. And so if I'm Edmonton, I'm thinking, well, this sucks. We got to play guys who know how to win. Like this isn't going to be like this is going to be a good series. So I'm curious to see what happens in that. Now, personally, I still think Edmonton is going to take that series. I think Edmonton, they had a really, really nice trade deadline. They added a lot of good guys. Like they added Mike Green. They added Athanasiou from Detroit. So a lot of nice moves. So I still think Edmonton is the favorite. I personally take Edmonton in that series. But I don't think it's going to be a 3-game sweep. I wouldn't be surprised to see that series go 5 games.
It's going to be a good one for sure.
It is.
But a lot of notable missing teams in these playoffs, even more like teams that you would think very dominating, adding some good pieces last year. The top one that comes to mind, San Jose.
Yeah.
What happened over there?
I think San Jose is just, they're old, they're slow. And I think San Jose, their style, the way that they have their team is built, I think they're just built for that kind of,
Are we going to be hitting what I'm hearing is the rebuild button?
Yeah, I think, Joe Thornton's it's as much as I, love the guy, he's a Hall of Famer, he can't keep up with.
I think he should have been traded at the deadline to at least see the guy win the cup because that's such a prestigious career. And
crazy because teams didn't even want him. And if I was a playoff team, if I was a team like Toronto or even Boston, he has an opportunity to go back to the team that drafted him. If I could take that guy as a 4th line center, and maybe some nights he doesn't play, you put him in the lineup, every now and then, just to have that kind of leadership in the room, I would have done it. But clearly these teams didn't want him for a reason. So. I don't know. I think San Jose, especially their goalie, I have a lot of questions about Martin Jones. I'm not a huge fan of, that guy. He looks like one game he looks like he's the best goalie in the world, and then you watch him some games and he lets in pucks that you just think how does that go in? So I think San Jose, they need to. I think they're at that point now where they're gonna have to take a step back. They have guys. They're getting older. It's just it's time for them to do this, I think.
Well, that's for sure. But you know what? I also got to say, I think at the deadline, because I watched it literally minute for minute, that there were a couple of interests even from Carolina for Joe Thornton. And you know what? I would love to play in that market just because that whole cycle where whatever the hell they call themselves. But let's touch up on one thing that's really going to be important here. And probably, you know what? I didn't want to make this such a long video. And thanks for taking the time like always. But I got to ask you this. Who is winning the Stanley Cup?
Well, my heart says Toronto because I have to.
But
say
the thing about this is, are we ready to advance past Boston? Columbus, like you said, Columbus will be a tough series. I could see it going 4 games, but I see Toronto winning this thing. But it's that damn series with Boston that always kills us.
If Toronto's skill takes over in that Columbus series and they make sure that, they don't take Columbus lightly, because that's exactly what Tampa did last season and Tampa got swept. So if the Leafs if their skill takes over and, they make sure that they match Columbus's work ethic, I think they're going to be okay in that series. When it comes to Boston, obviously there's been some heartache with that team.
God.
But, look, at some point, it's going to have to go in the Leafs' favor. Yep. Boston can't always beat us. And so if I'm the Leafs and it eventually gets to be where they're playing Boston, I hope that these guys take a look in the mirror and go, why not us? Why can't we beat these guys? Put all those other years aside. Like, this is a new group, new coach. Like, why can't we do it? So, Boston, obviously Boston's got a great team. But, I just think, at some point it's got to go the Leafs' way. So if it gets to Boston, we'll see what happens. Anything can happen. Like you said, playoff hockey, anything happens.
Exactly. And the other thing, I'm looking at this format for Boston and Toronto as a half-empty, half-full scenario. Because let's face it, Boston gets a bye and goes to the second round. But let's face it, Toronto, after not playing hockey for 2 months, I would say now, almost 3, they're going to start clicking again. That series with Columbus is going to be a good thing to get those gears going. So they're going to go into Boston. Yeah, Boston might be practicing, but practice is never a game. You know, like Iverson said it right. We're talking about practice where the game counts more. I think Toronto, with those gears going and everything, if they can get past Columbus with Boston, I think that this year will be the year that they can get past that series.
Well, look, I think, there's a couple things that you said there. Even with the break right now, I think that's going to be good for guys like Freddie Anderson. Break for that guy has always proven in the past that whenever he's rested, he plays well. So that'll be a good thing. But like you said, if the Leafs play well against Columbus, they're feeling good. They go into Boston feeling good. Why can't why can't it go their way? And I think, if you look at the matchup, the Leafs have the speed. They have that speed advantage. They have the skill advantage. Now, obviously, Boston has the experience. Boston has guys who know how to win. But, one guy who I think that's going to be really important if the Leafs do play Boston is somebody like Kyle Clifford. Kyle Clifford's another guy, and I know we talked about him last time, won a cup. He's going to be, Marchand, he's not going to be able to skate around the ice and be a pest because Clifford's going to come out there, and you know what he's going to do? He's going to make sure that he's taking care of guys like Marchand. And one guy who I was really, really impressed with before the break happened on Toronto was a guy like Kasperi Kapanen. Kapanen didn't have a good year in terms of goal scoring. I think he could do better. But if you looked at his game, he was getting real physical. He was hitting guys. He was fighting. And I like that spark out of him. I like the fact that he's showing that emotion, that passion. So, he's another guy. Watch out. He's not going to let Marchand be a pest. I think that guy's going to be a real pest for Boston. So if it gets to that. So we'll see what happens.
I think the only thing that's going to really determine everything, and that's the thing that always seems to kill us, is the defense core. Like, I feel this year, near the end before the break, it was starting to get a lot better. Obviously, we had a couple of injuries in our top spots, but you know what? With everyone back now, and like I said, the Columbus series will probably be a good warm-up for the Leafs because I can see the Leafs beating them. But then again, I never count out Torts because that guy's a psycho. But you know what? I think this could finally, in my opinion anyways, this could be the good year that the Leafs could get finally past Boston. And I think that's what it is. If they can beat Boston, I know, you look at the standings. Washington was a good team. Ovechkin is great. But the Leafs play good against big teams like that. It's just the Boston curse that keeps on shutting us down. So if we can get past these two tests, could we possibly see a parade in Toronto? Unfortunately, it would suck because COVID would the rules would still be in effect. So could you imagine we break the worst streak of hockey history by winning the Stanley Cup and we can't even party hard because our streets are still closed?
I'll party. There's no question about it. COVID or not, I'm still going to be going nuts. So.
All right. So we touched up on the West. We touched up on both sections. Here's the question that I ask you. Because obviously right now the NBA is going to make a decision, soccer and all that stuff. But right now the NHL, besides two or three leagues in Europe that are planning on starting up soon in the soccer world, do you think the NHL is doing the right thing by talking to fans, player safety and everyone? So Bettman did fantastic in his video saying, we spoke to everyone that we could and they want to play. They want this. So do you think, this is the last question I'm going to ask you, do you think that this risk is worth taking in a time that the world hasn't experienced this in such a long time? And that's pretty much my question to you. Do you think it's the proper way of taking it, or is it like we're kind of rushing into it because players want their money and all this stuff?
No, I think they're doing it properly. I think they're not just going to open the doors and here's 20,000 fans and one. They're obviously it's going to suck, but they're going to play without fans, and that part of it is going to. I'm curious to see how that goes because it's going to be. Players feed on the emotion of the fans. So exactly. I'm curious to see how that goes without fans. But no, I think they've done a good job. I think they've obviously taken the time to, put this together, and this isn't something that they thought of overnight. It's well thought out. So I think they've done a good job, and I don't think that they're putting really anybody at risk. I think as long as they do it properly, they don't rush into anything, they do it slowly, I think everything will be okay.
Do you think, sorry, side question to my last question, do you think that we're going to see maybe an altered version of the NHL helmet just for player safety or something like that? Or like, do you think they'll look at more like hitting as a thing? Because like I said, I'm just asking questions to you that could probably know a little more. Do you think that we could see something like that? Maybe like I said, the altered helmet, maybe everything just closed up. Because, like I said, a lot of people are pro, but there's a lot of negativity. Okay, why are we getting these playoffs in a time like this? So you're telling me NHL is social distancing when everybody's rushing the blue ice? No, right? So that's the question that I want answered.
I don't know. I never really thought of that. I mean, that's a good point. They could wear the helmets
Yeah.
with the full the fishbowl, so that could possibly be something that they would look into.
Well, we got a
But
couple of
I,
weeks more to go, right? So obviously Bettman said they got to get it all right before they can even give
and
you
I think
dates.
they're going to test every single
Yeah.
player. They're going to make sure that everybody's healthy, nobody's sick. So, like, they're not going to be. It's not like they're just going to welcome players back without having been
Yeah.
tested or anything. Like, these guys are going to go through testing. They're going to make sure they're healthy before they even have a chance to step onto the ice.
See the thing that, and this is what I want to touch up on, the thing is that I've noticed, yeah, the other leagues or Italian soccer, I should say, a couple players are refusing to train because of everything. So could we see that in hockey? Like, and after that, if a decision can't be made, shutting down the season, do you think they look at a point structure? Okay, whoever finished first gets the cup that year. Or like, what do you think could happen?
No, I don't think they would hand out the cup like that. I think they want somebody to play and win it. If guys aren't training, like obviously you want to hope that they are. Like I hope Austin Matthews is staying in shape and not eating chips and drinking beer every night. Like I hope he's staying in shape and somewhat training. I'm sure that there are guys who have let it slip a little bit, who aren't maybe training as much as they should be. But I mean, these guys are pros, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, that's all the time I could give you today because it's noon and we have a lot of stuff to do. Thank you so much. I'm going to put this video up today, guys. So you're going to see this interview. I thought it was very good. Guys, the next time you'll see him, it will probably after the Columbus series. Hopefully we get the Columbus series. Like I said, they still haven't decided anything. But go Leafs go. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm excited. Let's get it going here.
All right. So thank you so much for your time, guys. I know I didn't post a video this week. It was just one of those crazy work weeks. But I'm going to post today and I will post tomorrow. Since I noticed the mystery boxes did very well on views, I'm probably just going to do another video of those. And hopefully I can finally get Mosaic NBA cards so I can get my Zion William card that I'm desperately in need for. Take care, guys. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
You got it, buddy.
Have a good one.